Hey, what's up guys? This is Brian from Whisper Status 74, and today I want to talk about the show on HBO, the new show on HBO, Chernobyl, which is based on real-life events that happened at the Chernobyl power plant in Pripyat. Now, before I start the video, this is going to be a little bit more of a somber video because I want to show the sensitivity that should be with this video and with this subject matter, as this was a real-life event, and we have people in this community and people on YouTube from all over the world. And on the Whisper Status channel and the community, we're more of a family, and I have plenty of people that are part of this family that are from all over the world, are from Russia, from Ukraine, from Poland, that are from very close to that area. And this may ring or be very close to home for you guys, both figuratively and literally. And I want to show that respect and treat this film or this show with that respect, and this subject matter with that respect. This show is amazing. And on this channel, for those of you that just joined the channel, you're going to see it as a TV channel or a video game channel. It really isn't any of those things. It really is things that interest all of us in the community and things that I think may interest you. So it isn't about a TV. It isn't about anything other than this subject matter and how well done this show is. And it is actually breathtaking and heartbreaking all at the same time. For those of you that do like these shows in terms of its visual quality, the show is beautiful in terms of how it looks. So we'll get into a little bit of that as far as its picture quality. It is a tech channel in many ways. But after watching, let's just back up. After watching the car crash that was Game of Thrones, and a lot of what you see in Hollywood these days, and a lot of what we see in film, it seems that the only thing that can be written that's original or powerful has to be based on a true story lately. And for me personally, biopics and films of that nature, when I know a lot about the subject matter, I tend to steer away from them. Even Bohemian Rhapsody, which is based on Queen and Freddie Mercury, one of my favorite bands, I was reluctant to watch it. Now, I know that's not going to be popular. It was a very good film. But when I was watching that, I watched the guy play Freddie Mercury. And it was a great film. But I know so much about it that I can tell you exactly what didn't happen, and it's hard to sustain disbelief when I'm watching a true story. In many ways, I much rather watch a really well done documentary any day of the week over something like this. This, to me, is like an episodic Schindler's List, and I don't want to make those comparisons of such horrific things that have happened, but the way Schindler's List portrayed real life, even Munich, again from Steven Spielberg, real life events with sensitivity and with imagery that haunted you, broke your heart, you couldn't stop looking, but didn't have any of that Hollywood pizzazz to it. Now, it doesn't mean everything in Schindler's List or Munich was factual, obviously. This to me feels very factual. Now, I'm not sure with the characters who's who. I've read several books on Chernobyl. I've been fascinated with the subject since I was a kid. It has always been one of the most horrible disasters our planet has ever seen, from many different facets. Dealing with the Cold War at that time, as a country, what they were dealing with. But I want to make sure as we talk about this, and please in the comments, try to handle it with sensitivity, as there are those, not just at YouTube at large, I can't help that, but those of us that are part of this community and this family that are from this area, that are from that country and countries surround it. So please just be sensitive to that. I am sensitive to it. And it's hard for me to say something is amazing that portrays such a horrific time in a country's history that continues to this day. But it is handled in this show, which such imagery and writing that it is so good, in my opinion. It's not like I'm watching a movie. Now, I'm going to start with the cast. There's only 2 actors in here that I even recognize. I've seen others in other things, but not enough. Skarsgård, which is his first name, Stellan Skarsgård, which is here. You guys recognize him from Thor or Good Will Hunting. He's been in a million things. Tremendous actor. And then Emily Watson, who was in Silence of the Lambs, prequel Red Dragon. She was in some other things. But it has that cast that you believe simply because you don't know who they are. And I think that is so powerful. I don't want to see Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise or Mark Wahlberg in these films. I don't want to see that treated with that lack of respect by putting well-known actors in it. Now, before I sat down to do this, I was going to do a review on Black Hawk Down, which is an amazing film, you know, true story on the events in Somalia, and just an incredible, incredible movie. Has its Hollywood actors in it. It's actually a who's who of Hollywood at that time. And as I went to play this, the third season of this, or third episode, I'm sorry, just the imagery of what the radiation does to the body put most horror movies to shame. But was still done in such a respectful way. It's hard to explain. Just done so well that you could really feel the enormity of what these people were going through back then. And that it was something they couldn't contain, but understood but didn't understand. What radiation would do to the body with specific results. And it was handled in such a way that wasn't Hollywood-based. Even the parts of this series thus far that make you chuckle are inadvertent, meaning they would happen in real life. There's a great scene with the miners in episode 3 where it's just real people talking that made me laugh. But it wasn't this slapstick, added Hollywood thing that you see in a lot of biopics and true stories in the U.S. or abroad. What I mean by that is there's no beautiful people in here. There's no models. There's nobody in here that's overly beautiful. It's gritty. It's realistic. And from what I can tell, it covers thus far the events pretty closely. Especially from the documentaries I've seen. Now, the reason I'm not showing you any of it and you're seeing my ugly face again is just copyright in YouTube. I can't even pause it and show you scenes. Things are being pulled down all over the place. I definitely can't show it to you in motion. The channel's not big enough for that, and that's okay. This is just us talking here. But just do me a favor. Watch this show. If you don't have HBO, find a way to watch it legally if you can. It is excellent. And watching Black Hawk Down in the theater was such a powerful experience, but there was still that Hollywood element. Perhaps because I knew so many of the actors, and there was that Hollywood thing to it, though an amazing movie and very powerful. This is unbelievable. It is unbelievable in a way that Schindler's List to me was unbelievable. But this feels, and now I'm not comparing the two, please don't go there with it, but the enormity of it, the impact of filming something like this that looks like you're watching real life. You know, there's something to be said about it not being so disturbing, but you're seeing the complexity of the KGB, of that period of time here, with the fear of the Cold War and the different layers of trying to placate each other and tell each other it's going to be okay, and some are outright lying and some are trying their best, and there's so much in this with nuclear energy that was impossible, that even the engineers and the nuclear physicists didn't know. I've seen that footage for real. Now on YouTube, you can see amazing documentary footage. There's even some videos where they're silent, where there is the shots from the photographers shooting over the next day after the blast. All of them are dead. All the firefighters, we look at 9/11, and we look at all the early responders that had passed away, and the buildings and all the loss. Very similar here, very similar to all these heroes. And I'm not sure if they were given the proper heroes' dignity or burials. Again, I don't know much about what happened after, but there are so many heroes that play in the documentaries and that are also portrayed here that had to work in those conditions for years and years and years, from placing the sarcophagus and trying to clean that area, that were, even in full equipment, were not safe, that died a few days later. Now, the deaths that happened initially in the blast in real life are nowhere near what you would think with something so enormous. But when you think about the lasting effects with the children and the pregnancies and the water, it's something that sci-fi can't even match. And when you're doing these types of films, to treat them with that kind of sensitivity, to not put a bunch of famous pretty boys or faces in it, and it's handled so well. And I'm just, again, the picture quality for us TV nuts is excellent. I'm no 4K HDR, it's in 1080p, but I wanted to handle it with the sensitivity that it deserves. And for those of you, again, watching that are from these areas or close to these areas, you have my utmost respect, and I'm trying to handle it with the most sensitive hand that I possibly can. Fukushima in Japan, I mean, these are unparalleled disasters that don't just happen at that time. They ring out for years and years and years. Now, this happened in my lifetime. I was born in the early 70s. It's not that long ago. But the way this show handles it, the production value in the show, it's gritty enough, it's clean enough. Now, granted, I'm only on the 3rd episode. I highly doubt it'll jump the shark after that, but it is excellent. And obviously I'm not comparing this to Game of Thrones, but what made me do that comparison is seeing things get so Hollywood in Hollywood. This is not that. This is just handled so well. Now, if you're from this region and this is completely inaccurate and you're watching it and think it's terrible, please put that in the comments so I can know how accurate or inaccurate it is. As far as what I can see and what I've read, it's accurate. It's pretty accurate to the events. Again, I don't know the names or what characters they blended together, but like I said, in comparing it to a lot of other true stories, this just seems very organic, and it seems done with a lot of care. Now, when I saw the trailer for it, as many of you have, I was a little like, I mean, come on, what are you going to do? Is this going to turn into this big explosion? No, it's not that. I mean, it's really the imagery, again, of the effects of the radiation and the reality to where it can't be contained, and how far, kilometers, that it's going to really impact the animals, the rocks, the dirt, the trees. We think about that done on today's scale, how much that would cost, what that would do to any country. As you saw with Fukushima in Japan, even with that technology, this, evacuating an entire town, and should have evacuated farther out, them trying to contain it. I know I'm talking in circles. It's just excellent, and I just recommend it. Now, I know I'm putting out a lot of videos, and they're all over the place, and I really do apologize for that. I have so much going on in my head. I can do 5 or 6 videos a day. So I'm actually cannibalizing my own content, but I'm not really interested in views. I'm interested in just sharing how I feel to those of you that I think would appreciate this. Again, a picture quality, it's gorgeous, it's well done, but it's just masterful. I mean, I'm very, very taken aback with it, to the point, like I said, I had Black Hawk Down, ready to rock, and I sat and watched this on my iPad while I was eating dinner, and I had to stop eating. I mean, it takes a lot for me to stop eating, by the way, but it was just so powerful. The imagery that surrounds it on every level, it just took my breath away. You know, and it saddened me at the same time of the amount of loss, and not just the loss that we see in explosions. Or, you know, I brought up 9/11, and 9/11 had so many casualties day 1, day 2, and there was so many after that with cancer and asbestos and injuries that are still felt today. This is that for years and years to come, with deformities with children and cancer for years. But talking about some of the firefighters that initially looked fine or initially struggled, that looked terrible and burned, then healed to only die a few days later. The photographers, the heroes, the people that flew over, is done so well here that you can actually look up the real events and see how close they came. and how they handled it. Again, not a big Hollywood shiny thing, just organic, real, heartfelt, heartbreaking. It just took my breath away, and it's only on episode 3. And you know, the imagery here of the miners being told to basically go to their deaths, and the men and women that just, the nurses, the doctors, the politicians that were there. I mean, it really does feel like you're watching it and you're there. And that really is something that I think it's incredible. I think it's a work of art, but a true work of art. I think it's amazing. And I'm just encouraging you guys to check it out. I don't know why it says season 1. I don't know if they're going to keep going with it. I don't know the director. I'm just coming at you after seeing the 3rd episode, and I would just very encourage you guys to see it. I think it's very powerful, and I hope I handled it with the respect and sensitivity that it deserves, this real-life event. There are so many events that are so powerful. Unfortunately, nowadays, that's school shootings. I live in Connecticut. I grew up in Newtown. There's these crimes. There's all this terrible stuff that happens. And then there's events also like this that affect generations upon generations. But to see it portrayed this way is just, like I said, heartbreaking, heartfelt, breathtaking, but just respectful. It's just, it's hard to say that it's beautiful because I think they've handled it that way. I hope I've handled this video with respect for those of you that are touched by this, as well as the other events that I mentioned. Thank you. I know this video is confusing and isn't going to make a lot of sense. Please check out Chernobyl on HBO. If you don't have HBO, please track it down legally if you can. It is excellent. Is it hard to watch before I let you go? It's not done in a way that would make it hard to watch, in a sense that it's gratuitous. It's not this gratuitous violence or destruction. It's fitting and accurate. If you've seen the pictures of Chernobyl or Hiroshima, or Nagasaki, if you've seen those pictures, they've just done that well, and you're seeing it on screen, and I think it's handled excellent. Thank you. I'm Brian from WhisperStatus74. Please check out Chernobyl on HBO. I think it's amazing. And let me know in the comments what you think. And again, please keep in mind, this is a real-life event. Please try and keep your comments as toxic-free as possible and treat it with the respect that it deserves. Chernobyl is excellent. Check it out. Thank you so much. Take care.